All right, let's dive in. Today we're unpacking something really fundamental to, well, just living together, aren't we?
We really got.
Civic sense.
Yeah.
And based on the source material you shared, it's, one of those topics that really touches everyone everywhere.
It's totally universal. And as the text lays out, civic sense basically covers the social ethics, the responsibilities we have as part of a community.
Right.
Think of it like respecting laws, public spaces, each other, and, working towards keeping things clean, orderly, harmonious.
Yeah, and what I found fascinating where your source goes a bit deeper is it's not just about, say, following rules because you might get a fine or someone's watching you.
Hmm.
It really highlights this idea of internal responsibility, like how you choose to act for the good of everyone, even when you think nobody can see you.
That internal compass, yeah. That personal commitment to the shared environment, that's absolutely key according to the text.
So our mission, I guess, for this deep dive is to explore these specific parts of civic sense that your source brings up, why they matter so much, how we see them or don't see them in daily life,
Right.
and maybe what practical things we can actually do based on the insights from this text you provided.
Exactly. And perhaps the best place to start, because it's so visible, is the challenge the source talks about with cleanliness, or maybe the lack of it in public spaces.
Ah, yes. The text paints that picture, doesn't it? Litter, just everywhere. Wrappers, packaging casually dropped on streets, parks, beaches, even public transport.
It's such a persistent problem, and the source points out this striking contrast. We're often so careful about our private spaces, our homes, our cars, maybe even cafes we like.
Meticulous sometime.
Right, but that same standard
Yeah.
just doesn't always seem to apply to the pavement right outside or the park down the road.
There's definitely a disconnect there. Does this source get into why that might be? Is it just laziness?
Well, it really frames it more as a mindset issue. The text tackles that common excuse, oh, there wasn't a bin nearby.
Heard that one before.
Haven't we all? And it counters pretty simply, asking, is that a real barrier? Or is it more about a lack of willingness to just hold on to your small bit of rubbish for a few minutes until you do find a bin? It really positions it as a choice you make.
That shifts the focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
From needing more bins everywhere to just personal accountability.
Yeah.
And the source then details the consequences of not making that choice. They aren't small.
Not at all. Litter isn't just ugly. The text makes it clear how it clogs up vital drainage systems, which, leads to urban flooding.
Big problem in many
It's
cities.
huge. And it finds its way into rivers and oceans, devastating marine life. And sadly, the text mentions street animals often eating discarded packaging and plastics, getting really sick.
So that one wrapper carelessly tossed aside, it ripples out.
Yeah.
Impacts infrastructure, wildlife, public health. It really shows how connected things are.
Yeah, it turns what seems like a tiny inconvenience for one person into potentially a major problem for the community and the environment.
Speaking of the environment, the source also puts a really strong emphasis on greenery, especially with cities getting denser and, dealing with air quality and heat.
Yes, definitely. And sadly, it notes how common it is to see public plants and trees damaged. People pulling off leaves, trampling flowers, breaking branches for no reason.
It just feels like such a disregard for something that benefits everyone.
And what's quite insightful is how the text talks about why these plants matter so much. It doesn't just say they look nice, it actually calls them life givers.
Life givers, wow.
Yeah, because they absorb CO2, produce oxygen, cool down those urban heat islands, reduce noise pollution, provide shade.
They're like these little environmental engines making our cities bearable, really.
Exactly. And the source argues that protecting them is, well, it's a direct civic responsibility. That could mean joining local planting drives, or teaching kids to respect plants in parks, or even just, giving a thirsty public plant some water if you happen to have some extra.
And the text links it back too, reminding us that reducing waste, like using less paper, also helps protect the trees, providing these benefits. It's all interconnected.
Every little bit helps towards that kind of stewardship, yeah.
Okay, let's shift to some other public habits. The source flags, things that can be pretty unhygienic and, frankly, disrespectful. Spitting and illegal dumping.
The text is quite blunt here. Spitting in public, which is unfortunately common in some places, isn't just called out as, gross.
It is gross.
It is, but it's highlighted as a serious public health risk. It's just such an easy way to spread germs and diseases in places we all share. It's one of those habits that might seem small, but has big collective consequences.
And then there's illegal dumping people just tossing household rubbish or construction waste wherever.
Yeah, that has such immediate, visible negative impacts. It pollutes the local area, attracts pests, and like the source points out, it really drags down the value and image of a neighborhood. It's a stark example of putting personal convenience way ahead of community well-being.
Another type of pollution the text gets into, one maybe we don't immediately think of as civic sense, is noise.
Ah, yes, the invisible pollution. The source gives examples we all know. Leaning on the car horn, unnecessarily blasting music in public, late night loudspeakers.
Things that just impose on everyone else around.
Exactly. The core point the source makes is about the lack of consideration. Your enjoyment, your playlist, your loud phone call, needing to honk right now shouldn't have to ruin the peace for everyone else in that shared space. It just creates stress and disturbance.
It feels like basic respect for other people's right to, well, some relative quiet.
The source basically frames respecting noise levels as a sign of maturity, of awareness in these communal settings. Simple things like using headphones on the train, keeping music reasonable in the park, minimizing honking. They're presented not just as rules, but as acts of consideration, really.
Right. Now, shifting gears a bit to a huge global challenge, but one where civic sense plays a direct role. Single-use plastics.
Oh, definitely. The text identifies this as a massive modern problem, and we see it constantly. Plastic bags for one shop, disposable coffee cups, straws, cutlery.
See for what, 5 minutes? Then
Yeah.
they stick around for hundreds of years.
Precisely. The source really emphasizes their persistence. They just pile up in landfills, choke our oceans, harm wildlife for literally generations. It's like we're racking up this huge environmental debt for a tiny bit of convenience now.
So what's our civic duty here, according to the source?
It really pushes for a conscious shift to reusables. Things like always carrying a cloth bag, using your own water bottle and coffee cup, maybe choosing reusable containers for takeaways. The message is pretty clear. Every small switch reduces plastic waste. It's about personal changes adding up.
And the source also encourages spreading the word, right?
Mm.
Talking to friends, family, maybe colleagues at work. It's not just your own habits. It's about trying to shift the culture around you.
Building that collective momentum, yeah, that's seen as vital.
Okay, so beyond the environment, civic sense is also fundamentally about just how we treat each other in public. The text lists some really basic but important social behaviors.
Yeah, simple things that just make daily life smoother, like standing patiently in a queue, not trying to cut in, offering your seat on the bus or train to someone who might need it more, helping someone across the road if they look like they need it,
Just basic empathy and respect for others sharing that space with you.
and extending that to how we use the physical space, too. Making sure your parked car isn't blocking the pavement, keeping paths clear, and, this is crucial, not damaging public property bus shelters, park benches, signs, playgrounds. The main principle, as the source really stresses, is recognizing that public spaces belong to everyone. Respecting that space is respecting your community.
And this is where the source offers a really powerful idea for making change happen. Leading by example.
Yes, this is highlighted as maybe the most effective way to encourage civic sense in others, just modeling the behavior you want to see.
Like maybe gently pointing out to a friend if they drop something, or perhaps more importantly, making sure your own kids see you putting litter in the bin, respecting plants.
Exactly. The text is really clear on this. Kids are watching adults all the time. How you act in public is their real-world lesson. But it's not just about kids. Small actions by anyone can inspire others right now.
The source gives examples, doesn't it? Like picking up a piece of litter someone else dropped, or maybe trying to fix a broken public notice board or something.
Yes, things like that. It's not about being some kind of superhero. It's just about showing you care for the shared space. That can subtly encourage others to think and act similarly. It demonstrates a kind of personal ownership of the collective environment.
So pulling it all together, it's really clear that practicing civic sense isn't just about, following rules. It adds up to something much bigger for society.
The source makes that connection very explicit. Individual civic responsibility directly helps build a better society overall.
And how does the text illustrate those bigger benefits? What does it say happens?
Well, it outlines several positive results. Cleaner, more orderly cities tend to attract more tourism and investment, which is good for the economy.
Makes sense.
A culture of respect and consideration makes communities feel healthier and safer. And it builds trust between people when you see others actively caring for the shared environment.
And of course, globally, things like cutting down waste and protecting green spaces. That has that vital long-term benefit for the planet, for future generations.
Exactly. It scales up individual
All right, let's
actions
dive
into
in.
collective
Today we're
progress
unpacking
and
something